I endeavor, I believe, my true calling is to see the divine in every person I encounter. So when we start to hear the call of the divine, it can come in all sorts of different ways. It can be a little tickle, a little push, a desire for something better, little pushes, little movements. And for me, it was, it was hard for me to hear. I had too much white noise in my life. I had lost the voice of God when I was started doing a lot of drugs, and then got into trying to raise a family and working too much. God had hit me with a baseball bat, so to speak, a spiritual baseball bat, because I was not hearing the clues. I was not listening to my intuition. And sometimes your intuition is really easy if you just ask yourself, does this usually make me feel good? Or does this usually make me feel bad? And anything that usually makes you feel bad, you should get rid of it. Just eject it. It's not doing you any good to have to endure stuff that's just not right. So the first part about the journey is to listen. And I'm a big believer that God speaks to all of us. But some of us don't want to hear. Some of us can't hear. Some of us hear but just don't know how to respond. And for me, responding came as prayer and listening more intently and opening my eyes. For me, normally when I have what I call God experience or a movement of the divine, I can feel God's presence. It's a heaviness in my chest, something pressing down on my forehead or my shoulders, almost like a little bit of an adrenaline rush. And I know that I'm in the presence of the divine. Sometimes I get that. I'll be driving down the road and I'll start to get that feeling, and I'll go, oh, I'm supposed to be paying attention. Lord, I'm paying attention. Open my eyes, Lord, that I may see. You know what? God will open your eyes if you ask, if you invite, and you desire truly and authentically. Now, if you're trying to get God to open your eyes so you can become rich and wealthy, and God doesn't want any of that. God wants obedience to what you know is right, because you know what's right, and greed is not right. No matter what that movie said, greed is not good. Greed is not healthy. So that's the first step, is to listen, respond, react. The reaction part is you think you're called to do. I'm saying that over because it's a verb. It's not something to believe. It's not something cerebral. It's something you go do. You're God's hands and feet in the world. I forget who said that, but that's the point. You go do in the world. That's usually what obedience is, because we exist in the world. Therefore, we should do in the world. But if you think you're hearing, chances are you are hearing something. But I believe that God is so other from us. I like to think of God as a multi-dimensional being. And as such, we can't comprehend the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th dimension. And God knows what God's dimension is. I guess to be God, he's infinity. But anyway, so go about your life. Do what you think you're supposed to do. Listen to your intuition. I started doing that when I was about 20 years ago. And my first step was What do I like to do? I like to teach. So I went and finished up my studies, got my master's, and I was able to start teaching at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and through the gracious efforts of Dr. Tadorevich and Dr. Landman, I was able to help run an oral history center. And oh boy, did I love teaching. I loved teaching. But then I started to not like being in academia. That's a different thing. Teaching is different than surviving in academia. Academia is a inherently political, cutthroat place to be. And that, like I said, it ended up, though I loved teaching, I would come home feeling miserable because of all the politics and all the BS that was going on there. Did beautiful work, met beautiful people, developed skills of listening, developed skills of how to ask really good questions. And but it wasn't exactly where I thought I was supposed to be. And so I shifted. And I believe God was pushing me into ordained ministry. Part of the reason I thought I was being pushed into ordained ministry was because people in my Episcopal congregation came to me, including my priest, and said, "We think you have a calling to the priesthood." And since I had done a discernment back when I was a teenager, rolling into my 20s, I'd already decided not to be a Jesuit priest. They finally convinced me that an Episcopal priest is very different from a Jesuit priest, and I agreed. And when I started doing that discernment, I felt once again a train that I didn't know I was derailed was suddenly put back on the rails, and I was moving. And the church resisted me. First, they said I was too old. When I was younger, I was too young. Anyway, I continued through that whole process. It took a long time. And I felt like it was the right thing. I needed to be in the church. The resistance I was feeling in the church, I believed was God testing me. Or perhaps, I think I was creating a test for myself. Because somewhere deep down, my intuition knew that this still was not the perfect place. And even though it felt right, though, like the right place, I was able to help people in ways that I couldn't before. The collar and the cross opens up a lot of doors, helps the conversation start. And I was able to heal and help a lot of people. I focused on, as Jesus said, the least of these. I focused on addicts, homeless, anybody who is vulnerable or on the margins. So I endeavor, I believe, my true calling is to see the divine in every person I encounter and present myself as the face of the divine to everybody I encounter. To love people so that they can learn. We can speak all we want to speak, but if we're not walking the talk and talking the walk, it doesn't mean anything. So I'll never push Jesus. I'll never push salvation. I will never threaten you with the non-existent hell. I will answer questions. Questions like, John, why do you serve all these people? Questions like, why do you allow yourself to suffer? John, why aren't you getting people that can fill up the plate? Well, I'm listening to God, I'm listening to my intuition, and I'm doing my best to serve. Because Jesus in the gospel says, become a slave. You will be a slave. And frankly, everybody, what I've learned, what I need to teach, everybody is the face of Christ.